Good evening, everyone. Good evening to you, and welcome to another Authors Showcase. I think the Authors Showcase is one of the more exciting aspects of the Write-Tukubuli Virtual Literary Festival. In the Authors Showcase, you get to meet some of our authors, our many talented authors, and I get to have a conversation with them that I share with you, so you can get tidbits as to the person behind the story, what motivates them to write, what motivates them to write a particular story about their book, understand their writing style, and also inquire a little bit into their process, because we're hoping, one of our big hopes in this virtual literary festival is to also show the way to aspiring writers as to how you too can become a published author. In other words, how did you how did that author go about publishing, especially if they self-published, how you go about publishing your book, how you go about marketing and distributing your book and getting interest in your book, how you go about turning an idea into a story. We talk to our authors, so not only do you get to know them a little more intimately than what's in the book, you also get the opportunity to pick their brains, so to speak. I get to pick their brains and share it with you. So I have a really enviable job, I like to think. Uh, my author tonight that I'm featuring, and I'm very excited to feature it because although I don't believe we've ever met in person, but we've developed a very virtual special friendship, and I always admire her talent, how prolific she is, and she has been acting as a midwife that's supposed to be birthing my first book. And so it's always a pleasure to have my conversations with Miss Catherine Dorsette. She is no stranger to us at TDN, and I'm going to introduce her to you, and I am sure you that there will be a lot that we share that you will find valuable. So Catherine, welcome. It's such a pleasure to be featuring you on Authors Showcase on this Write-Tukubuli Virtual Literary Festival. A warm welcome to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be here.
Yeah, and it is such as I said, it's such a wonder because I always admire your talent. Folks, in a while, I'm going to be showing you a slideshow of her the covers of her book, and you're going to be amazed at the amount of work that she has out there, whole body of work, but also the wide variety of her works. So Catherine, before I do that, I am going to give you a little minute to share yourself with the audience, a little bit of a background, who you are, maybe where you're located, anything that you want the audience to know about you as a woman, a person, and you as the author of so many really wonderful stories.
Well, hi everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join Anthony and me. I'm Catherine Dorsette. I'm originally from Dominica. I reside on Montserrat. I've been here on Montserrat for almost 25 years now. But my heart has not left to Dominica. You can take me out of Dominica. You can't take Dominica out of me. So not just that. I love writing. I work with the government of Montserrat. Kept very busy, but I love writing. So I write every time I get. What I write on depends on how I feel, what I see, what I hear. So I just write and I tell persons who are interested in writing, who are already writing, just write. Like I've been telling my host, because he owes me a book, just write.
There's still hope. There's still hope, right? Uh, 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 and folks, as I told you, definitely I'm going to introduce you to one of Catherine's work, uh, a wonderful body of work. You can also see it in her background. Catherine, I'm going to go through the slides. We cannot comment on all of them, but what I want you to do, if there's one of them in particular that you want to make a quick comment on, just go ahead and do so, right? I'm starting the slide a little bit backwards because for whatever reason the slideshow went through while I had it on hold. So let's 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 go into that. There's
Well,
this first.
this is one I wouldn't mind
Okay, go
um,
ahead.
mentioning. These are some of the anthologies that my work appearing. We have the collective from the Peter Noir, the Flying Crapo Collective. I was so honored when I was invited to join and my works appear in them. And then we have Disaster Matters, which is something that is done. It's actually a textbook for Caribbean schools now. And one of my books, an excerpt of it is in that. And also the book by Dr. Irvin Andre. Most of my stories, he did a review of almost all of my books, those that
Oh
he had at
wow.
the.
Hmm.
So I felt really honored and I had to just promote them. And these are books that, make lovely reading, especially the Flying Purple Collective.
The Flying Grapple
I love it.
Collective. Yeah. And so your disaster matters, you say, is part of the school curriculum in the Caribbean, like CXC
Yes,
adopted
they're
it.
originating a Caribbean textbook because
Oh
of the
wow.
disasters that happen around the Caribbean.
Uh-huh.
And one of the books that they used to an excerpt from was Fire on Montserrat because it
Right.
spoke of the volcanic eruption, which was quite a disaster in Montserrat. So they took an excerpt of that and added it in the book.
In
And
the
then there
book.
were comprehensive questions that the students would have to answer as part of their work. So I felt
Wow.
really honored to be part
I'm
of
so
it.
proud of you. Congratulations. I didn't realize that. This is awesome. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Um, all for my name.
This is a book I just published last week.
Last week.
Um, yes, I saw Kindle Direct Publishing. They sent out
Hmm.
invitation for competition,
Right.
and I thought I would just try it. But and what I did was I used Hurricane Erin, which just passed, and made her the protagonist. And it's kind of a satire, hilarious kind of work because
Wow.
Erin is saying, they call themselves weather experts, but what do they know? I mean, they thought I was going to hit the Leeward Islands, but then I diverted north. So I'm the one who decide where I go when I go.
No,
So
right.
it's,
Okay. So she's not dancing to their tune. Oh, so
yeah,
that's wonderful.
it's
That's
not,
newly
it's
released.
not.
I need to get my copy. Okay, newly released.
Yeah, I just released it. I'm this week.
All right. Next
And this
Sunset at
one is
Dawn.
my latest publication.
Mm-hmm.
I released that in March
Wow.
because I wanted to coincide with the St. Patrick's Day celebrations on the island.
Right.
It's that story is 257-year old on March 17, 2025. Made that story 257-year old. It's
Wow.
about the uprising, the enslaved. They had had enough, and they rose up
Mm.
against the Irish masters. And
Wow.
so, since I've been on Montserrat, I've been celebrating with everybody else, but nobody has ever written a story about it. And I thought I would borrow it, and I just
Right.
ran with it, and
Wow.
it came out quite well.
For just a little background for those that may not be familiar, Montserrat has a very strong heritage connection with Ireland. And
Yes,
so, as a matter of fact, it is called the Emerald Isle. If you're from the Caribbean, you probably know that.
and only Montserrat has St. Patrick's Day as a national holiday as well, public
As
holiday.
well, right? So it's that much. When I was in high school, one of my best friends for my 5 years of high school at grammar school was from Portsmouth, and he had that type of hair, that color hair that you see this lady has in the background, and it very very curly and tightly knit, like so it was kinky, but with that kind of color, and he, his brother, and one of his sisters. And I always wondered about that. And until I found out that his mother is actually from Montserrat, married
Mhm.
to a Dominican, and that's how they got that
The Irish
color of
color.
hair, the Irish color hair. And no,
Yeah.
and then like his name was McMorris, his brother's name was
Right.
Macaulay. So there's a really strong cultural connection between Montserrat and Ireland. And so you're
But
saying that.
there
Mhm.
is also a discourse as to whether or not we should be promoting our, when I say our, our Irishness, because apart from the names and the names of places and persons, when history tells us that the Irish persons were not very good to us, and
Right.
so you have those who celebrate the fact that the enslaved rose up against them,
Right.
and then there are those who celebrate the fact that they have the Irish connection.
Right.
So it's all pieces together.
It's all part of the human
It
tapestry.
is.
It's not that it's justified, but it's that our folks were resilient enough to find themselves in an enslaved condition, and in coming out of that enslaved condition, they were able
Make a
to
life for
capture and
themselves.
conquer the island for themselves, and it's not anything to be ashamed of. The same way, like all of the other islands have quadrille and certain different types of dances that came from the colonial people who enslaved them. Is no different. Different islands have it to different degrees. So that's also interesting. So that's about the slavery uprising in on the island of Montserrat, and you took it and wrote a novel about it. So that's incredible. The next one, Adventures of Moss and Fling.
The Adventures of Moss and Flea is a quick story, but it touches on societal ills. It's the story of a mosquito and a fly who became good friends, and how they and how they look at the social ills that humans put themselves in. Like they
Right.
talk about disobedient to parents,
Uh-huh.
um, alcoholism, staying at school,
So
and also I talk about
literally,
love.
literally, when people say they were the fly on the wall, yeah,
You know what I
watch
mean?
it, fly on the mosquito on the wall. I up those, well, the flies during the
And
day,
then they
the
do
mosquitoes
observers.
during the
Yeah,
night. Yeah,
people do say that I wish I was a fly in the wall, but the fly telling his story.
exactly.
And
Right.
they're not too impressed with what they see.
Yeah, and then the mosquitoes on our walls at night in our bedrooms, so they see
Yep,
you in the most intimate
yep.
moments that you. So wow, your imagination is so incredible, Catherine. And I remember you saying that that came from you as a little child, just taking your book and writing
Yes.
stories. Yeah,
Just
so
making them up as I go. Yeah.
as you go along, so that still carries with you. The can-do attitude, only
The
you
kind of
can stop me.
attitude is something I wrote based on my own life.
Okay.
Um, I spoke about how I started to write because my dream was only to have one book, just to hold a book and
Hmm.
see my name on it and say, okay, I have done it. And I
Right.
try to encourage person by saying, look, I want you to have just one book. And now my books are in the double
All
digit
over, right? And
numbers,
and it's part of
And I also
curriculum. And, yeah.
and I also spoke a little bit about my battle with weight loss.
Right.
And I want to encourage persons who are also battling with that.
Right.
Because you do so much and you lose 5 pounds and you feel so good, and next week you gain 5 pounds. As a
Right.
matter of fact, you gain 10 and you wonder, but it's like best you don't do anything, but you still have to. And I think one of the reasons that I wrote it again is because when you're doing something, it has to be for you, not
Right.
because you are people shame you about it or they laugh at you. You have to do it because you think it is good for you. You will be better. You will be healthier. You will feel better. It has to be about you. Otherwise, it's just useless work.
Powerful,
Unless you
powerful
do it for
message
you,
indeed.
it's not going to mean anything.
Right. How do you say this word? Holy
You detector is
Holy
actually a
sector.
human lie detector.
Oh, it's a human life.
You really got to, you
I'm going
really
to
have
leave
to
that.
read it for it to
I'm
get
going to
it.
leave that to the imagination of the listeners. Uh,
Yes.
the next one is
Um,
Leçon de.
Lecciones del pasado. It's
Mhm.
lessons from the past. It's the Spanish version of one of
Okay.
the books that I have, lessons from the
Okay.
past.
All right. So
Because
you
we
have
have a lot of Spanish on Montserrat, and I wanted to include them in
you
the
do. You
reading
have.
audience.
Okay. Where are they from? Dominican Republic.
Dominican Republic, yes.
It would be a nice mix of Dominican Republic and Irish that we might see in Montserrat in the next few years, right?
We have a lot of them, yes. We have a lot of
Yeah,
them.
they must be beautiful. Um, lessons from,
So this
so
is
that's
the
the
book
English
Lessons from the
version,
Past,
right?
and I have the
Right,
Hispanic version of it. It's actually based on biblical young people, how they tell how they've overcome the struggles, and they're trying to remind the youth of today that what you're going through is not, you're not the only one. We've been through it before, and this is how we handle it.
right.
So
Okay.
It's lessons from the past.
Lessons from the past. Critical decision. All
Yep.
right. So people,
Children learn, they learn more from what you do as opposed from what you say.
what you say to them. Okay.
Yes.
Will he
And
remember
Will
me?
Remember Me Tomorrow is actually a short film
Uh-huh.
based on a gentleman who had Alzheimer's
Wow.
and how his daughter reacted when she thought that he actually recognized her, but he was just pretending because he didn't want her to be sad.
Oh, wow. Wow. Oh, wonderful. Moss and the Fling. Okay, there you go. That's a
Another
coloring
story,
book. Yeah.
yes.
Uh,
This is actually a book for young readers. It's actually a story and coloring book.
for young readers and for mature readers as well, because some
Well,
people
yes,
sometimes you can relax, take your minds off of stuff and do some coloring. Wow. Um,
Auntie Kids
Anti-Kid
Bernadette.
Bernadette. So
A
those are
friend of mine,
uh-huh.
yes, told me that there was a little girl who was being a toddler who was being compared with other children because she was a bit slow.
Mhm.
And it gave me the idea for the story. And so I have Auntie Kate's Bernadette. And Bernadette is a coloring book as well. It's
Okay.
telling her story about no child should be compared with anybody else because children reach milestones at different paces.
Right.
So that's what it is about.
Awesome. Um, folks, you see the body of work that she has. We've been going through covers of her book for the last how many minutes now? We're not done yet. Anthology of weekly writing prompts. This is almost
It,
like journaling, no?
yeah, it's a book of about 24 short stories that I did while I was in a writing group on Facebook, and I published it along with the reactions of the persons in the group, how they
Is
felt
it?
about the different stories.
Oh, so every week you have to write a story.
Yes.
Oh, we need to do that. Maybe that will get me to write something.
Ah,
We should
indeed.
plan one. Yeah, I like that. Okay. Um, a man of the
The
wolf of
Wolf
a
of a
man.
Man.
All right.
The Wolf of a Man was actually inspired by my husband
Mm-hmm.
because when he became a Christian, when he gave his life to the Lord and started to live a new path, he was he was he was surprised at the reaction of persons in the church, his
Wow.
brothers and sisters in church. It was like, if God can save that man, God can save anybody. And so he felt like, wow, I must have been the worst out there, that kind of thing.
Right.
And so I just did a story to remind persons that he who cast, who has no sin should cast the first
To carry
stone.
the first stone.
You may not
Wow.
have done what somebody else did, but at the foot of the cross is a level playing field. Nobody is
Right.
worse than the other.
Right. Wow. Youth power. I know you're
Your
deeply
power is
involved with youth.
actually,
Yeah.
yes, it's about youth, and it's the original story of lessons from the past.
Lessons from the past. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Antiquates short stories.
My very, very first book, I started writing that when I was 9, and I actually got it published when I was 48, 38.
Wow.
These are some
Mm.
of the stories that I made up for my mom. And when she got me the exercise book and told me when I get the idea to write them down, these are some of the very first stories I wrote.
Wow. This is awesome. Um, a woman like Cass.
That's the final book of the Fire and Monster trilogy.
Okay. The Fire and Montserrat saga ends.
Yes.
And then you're going to write a fourth one that's going to say, not really.
Fire and Monster 10 years later. I know I said I wasn't going to,
Right,
but
right.
I just thought I'd do something Fire and Monster 10 years later.
It's like
So
those
that's
soap.
what I'm actually working on.
That's what you're working on. I didn't know. You see. All right. Um, again, so that's the
That's the
second one,
second
right?
book. Yes.
Jordan. Okay. Fire and Montserrat. So it's a trilogy. Um,
The
and
one, the
then,
one on the, I think is your right and my left. That's the
mhm,
original cover of Fire and Monster. And then
okay.
I did the other one because I added some chapters as well.
Right. And this title of a book is so poignant to Montserrat because most people know that Montserrat suffered the effects of the eruption of its volcano. What's the name of the volcano in Montserrat?
The Sophia Hills volcano.
Montserrat.
Sophia
Okay.
Hills volcano.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. And then finally, folks, we are on the last one. No, that was the last one then. Um, welcome to the books by Catherine Dorsette. Wow, what a body of work. In a sense, it's almost like immortality, right? Your works will live on long after you're no
Yeah.
longer occupying this body. Um,
I like the idea that I may have left a footprint,
right,
somewhere.
right. Oh wow. So that is quite impressive, and like, as I said, the the variety, the range of topics. There are novels, non-fiction, I mean fiction novels, and there are some, although none of them are actual. There are some that are not necessarily fiction per se, or even if they're fiction, they're based on historical fact, and so on. But in all of them, you demonstrate so much imagination and so much creativity. So tell us about your inspiration to write those stories. I know there may be, I don't know if there's any one thing that inspires you, but let's talk about your inspirations.
My inspiration, um, I think I'm inspired by the fact that I just love to write. And
Okay.
so sometimes I may see something that to somebody else, like the Adventures of Moss and Flame, a
Hmm.
mosquito and a fly.
Wow.
It just seems so silly, but it was fun because I had a prompt, and the prompt was I have to write a short story, and the instruction was make me laugh. And
Mm.
so I decided to use the mosquito and the fly, and how it ended. Even the tutor said she had never laughed so hard in her life, and I
Wow. So you achieved it.
I was so surprised because I didn't know how the book was going to end, and it really made me laugh.
Yeah. It's
So
al- it's almost a
little
tag
things like
team,
that.
right? A daytime spy handing off in the evening to a nighttime.
Exactly. And there are some very, at the end of the book for The Adventures of Moss and Fleeing, what I have done to help prevent learning loss is I have comprehensive questions after each story, and I have an instruction to summarize the story with it between 50 and 150 words to summarize the salient points of that particular story. And so that way, the children who read the book, the salient points stay. And I also have at the end of the book 10 things you didn't know about a fly and 10 things you didn't know about a mosquito. And they are
Wow.
quite interesting facts, actually.
Yeah, and I mean, just the creativity of coming up with the names, moss for mosquito, fly, fling for fly. So that actually shines through. So you love to write, and you like to. I get the feeling that you're a very um, deep observer of people and circumstances, and so you mix those two. Is that what it is?
It is, and I think I may have honed that skill when I was a journalist,
Right.
because you had to be observant. I remember going to a minister's office to get some information about a story I was writing, and he wouldn't say anything, but he had some papers on his desk. He had them facing him, but I could read it upside down.
Hmm.
And so I took the opportunity, and I actually got the information I had from his desk. And when I left him with, he called to say, well, he never told me so. Where did I get it? But I had my information. So I observed things. I remember at one of my press conferences with Dame Eugenia, she had just lost elections. And she said she was going away to, what is that name of that place? I even forget the name of the place now. And I said, no, you're not going away to relax. You're going away because you're ashamed. You've been there for almost eternity. You've been there for almost over 20 years. And now
Mm.
that you're gone, you just can't stay in Dominican. Other journalists, people from the media were watching me like I was crazy. But
Mm.
it's how she responded to my question that actually made the news. So
Oh,
things like that.
right.
I try to read between the lines. Even here on Montserrat, when I was a journalist before I came to work with the government, we went to a press conference, and the John Osborne government at the time were excited because Britain had given them $3 million to use.
Mm.
So the other journalists were excited about what they were going to use the money for and so on. But I sat and I was looking them over, and something just doesn't make sense. So my question was, that $3 million, is it new money, or is it money that they have already allocated and telling you you can use for it? Boy, you could have heard a pin drop, because nobody had thought to ask that. And he had to admit after a very long pause that yes, indeed, it was money they already had, but they were allowed to use it. And
to
that's what
know.
made the news. Because it
So
wasn't
you,
new money,
so
but
you have
nobody
that
had
back,
thought to ask it.
right? So, what is the state of journalism in Montserrat now?
Journalism in Montserrat is, well, we have a new government now. So it's a bit easier, but journalists are under pressure. It's almost like, yes, you can speak, but it's like you are almost censored. We had a show called What's on Your Mind?
Hmm.
And persons would call in to talk about what's happening on the island, because they would ask questions, they would go to government officials and not get any responses. They would
Right.
not be addressed.
Hmm.
And the government thought that they were being attacked, and they had a parliamentary sitting, and they blocked the program. They
Wow.
just let it right off. And I mean, that was a big to-do. But it's
Hmm.
not like in Dominica where people take their placard and they go and demonstrate. People here, and it's a very small place, just about 4,000 persons. Everybody know everybody. Everybody's
Hmm.
connected. Everybody's a family member, and jobs are so scarce. So I think that's one of the things. But the good thing is with the new government, which came in October, as soon as they came in, that was the first thing they put back. Because they say, yes, we may not always like what you say about us, but we cannot take away your right to say those things.
Right.
No? Just be respectful, don't be libelous, but air your views. And
Right.
that will also help us, because it's like another opposition party.
Right.
Depending on what you say, it gives us ideas on what we need to work on.
What's
So,
important to the people? Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Because I watch journalism in Dominica, and I see some of the powerful people in Dominica, become a little hostile to certain journalists based on the questions that they ask. And then some of the other journalists who are a little more seasoned seem to be always throwing softballs
Mhm.
at those in government. And you see those same journalists, when they're interviewing somebody else who they don't perceive to have power over them, they know how to ask questions. And
Right.
so that's
And
why I was asking that.
this is not a good message for other persons who want to get into that field, or other persons who are looking at journalism critically, because you cannot appear to have any favoritism. You cannot
Right.
like this one, and you have to be objective. Whether they are in government, whether they are your boss, if you're a journalist, you have to be objective.
Right. So before we close the interview, tell me your thoughts about the Write-Tukubuli virtual literary festival. Just the idea of a literary festival, whether virtual or in person. What are your, how do you, obviously you in favor of it because you participate in, but also as a writer, as an educator, as somebody who works with young people, what are your aspirations that you hope to see maybe achieve or come out of the festival?
Well, I love the idea of the virtual festival,
Hmm.
because as a writer, if it was in presence that you had to be on island, I would have missed it, because I'm not sure
Right,
I would be able to travel at the time. And that is probably true for a lot of many Dominican writers.
right,
So the idea that is virtual, we still get to be in quote unquote one space, although we are all over the world. So that's a brilliant idea. And also in terms of writing for writers, whether you're a poet or you write novels, it's a lot of exposure, because we're talking about social media.
right.
Everything is on social media now, and persons would rather stay home and look at a game or other things on social media, as opposed to actually attending it, which is one of the reasons that cinema is becoming almost obsolete. Everybody
Absolute.
stays home and do their stuff.
Right,
So it's a wonderful idea, and I want to thank them personally for the exposure that the writers are getting, the authors, and also TDN, because you do a lot of work with writers as well. and the Peter Noir group, writing group. It's a wonderful place to thrive and to learn. And there are always tips on writing, on how to promote your books and so on. So I think the Write to Kubuli virtual literary festival is a wonderful idea. And I'm hoping that it will become an annual event.
Yeah, that is the hope, is to make it an annual event. And one of my personal hopes and aspirations that may come out of it is maybe infrastructure, so to speak, or a platform where the works of our writers, for this one it was Dominican writers, but hopefully it expands in the future. But the works of our writers who tell our story becomes more accessible, more popular, first of all, among our people, so people know that there's a Catherine Dorsette that has 20 books on the market. And so they also know where to go to find it, and they also don't hesitate to buy a book, and to actually read it. Nowadays, with the TikTok and the Facebook, it is difficult to read a book from front to back because there's so many other things that we have to do that occupies our time. Before you go to work, you close your office, you go home, and you're free from work until tomorrow. Now with email and
Yeah.
WhatsApp, a lot of the time is no longer ours. But we're hoping out of that festival that people like you, who we are so grateful, we get to share in your talent, and to benefit and to enjoy your talent. We're hoping that people like you can get more reward. It's not necessarily that you're doing it for reward, but it's always good if you do something you enjoy and you get rewarded for it.
Thank
Encourages
you.
you to do more, encourage more people to do it. So we're hoping that we create that platform where writers start to see a little revenue,
From
significant
the work,
revenue from
from
their
the
work,
work.
That's my hope for the
I,
literary
I,
festival.
I also think as well that that is a way of chronicling the work of our Dominican writers so
Hmm.
that the generations who come after us, when they go through our work, they can have an idea of our train of thought, how we
Yes,
thought, how we
yes,
felt, how we saw
yes.
things.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's what I think as well.
Definitely. So, I mean, I hope that the listeners have felt like they know you. They've seen behind the scenes. They've seen how passionate you are, and how you take your writing seriously and you do it often. Is there anything additional that you want to, let's say, if you were to talk to an aspiring writer, or anybody, with anything that you want to say?
If I had to talk to an aspiring writer, I would say just right. I know that we're living in the age of artificial intelligence, and persons may be wondering why put in the effort because I mean something out there is just spewing out words, and persons who have no passion at all for writing or for storytelling, they are the ones making big names in with books.
Hmm.
But do not let that intimidate you. Artificial intelligence, no matter how intelligent it is, cannot convey the kind of emotion that you as a human can do. And only you can tell your story. The artificial intelligence, the AI, may look at your work and try to copy it, but it will never quite do it justice.
Right.
So do not let that intimidate you. If you want to write, write. And I always say, begin with something you know. Keep a diary, keep a list of things you would like to do before a certain period in your life, and start writing. Just write.
That's right. That,
Just
that's a
write.
good place to leave it. Just right.
Just write.
Just right. And folks, I hope you enjoy the remainder of the Write-Tukubuli virtual literary festival. Uh, Tonight, today, I introduced you if you hadn't known her, or if you knew of her before. Hopefully, I introduced you to more intimate aspects of her. Miss Catherine Dorsette, author of so many books. Thank you. Such a pleasure spending the last half hour or so with you. And I wish you continued inspiration, continued imagination, continued motivation to write. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.